Now, to make sure that we're really clear on what we're doing, we're now working on our CentOS 7 host. If we go through and look at LSB release and look at the description, we can see this is 7.0. So this is great to give you then the good cross-platform experience that you're going to want when studying for your LPI exams. We're going to run through and take a look at NetStat. We're going to see that it's slightly different to the Ubuntu system in the fact that we don't use DNS mask by default for name resolution. So when we go through and look at then our listening TCP ports, we'll give them their number. We'll also look at the processes behind them. As we go through, we can see that there's nothing that appears to be listening on port 53. And when we go through and start looking at the names of the service, well, we don't have any of our DNS services that we might recognize. So it's only something that we're going to see on our Ubuntu system. We don't see it on our Red Hat based systems by default. Let's just clear this system out. We're going to use yum. We're going to install, and we can accept this straight away. And then we're going to install then the package bind. And then we'll also put on the bind utils. It's probably a dependency, but at least we know then they're going to be added in. Now again, a difference that we have in our package management systems is that on Debian-based hosts, such as our Ubuntu host, we will see that the service will automatically be enabled and started. Whereas we go back and look at our NetStat, we're still not using then port 53. We can start it without any configuration, and again it will be working as a caching only service. So we can use then system CTL enable named, and then we'll go through and start the service. With all of this in place, when we go through now and take a look at our netstat command, we can see then that we're listening on port 53, and then that's our named daemon. We're also listening on port 953, and again that's the named daemon, but that's what we connect to with our RNDC command. For completeness, we're going to go through and use the firewall CMD and --permanent, so we'll add these into our configuration. And we're going to go through and add port. And we're going to have this then as port 53 on TCP. That's what we're looking at with our netstat command, but DNS can also work over UDP. So we'll add the UDP ports in as well. Now they've been added into the configuration. We need to make that configuration active. So we can go back and run then the reload. So that will be effective to our firewall now, and of course on restarts. Now to be able to test this, if I go through and dig, and we'll go through and look for www.pluralsight.com, and we'll tell it to look on the local host. My default will still be putting through to wherever my DHCP has picked up from this system. It won't be pointing through to the local host at all. So even though I've become a DNS server, I won't automatically use that until I start making edits to my resolve.com for network configuration files. So we can force dig to go through and look at the local server. And again, we want to concentrate that we're getting the answer section back, which we are, and we can check the server section towards the bottom, where we can see that we did then read this from the local server. So we've been able to get our system up and running with DNS on our CentOS system, and we've also looked at how we can enable the firewall configuration. We'll move back to the slides now so we can start understanding some of the files and locations in CentOS for the DNS configuration.